Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. Oh, the Ilblurmatic.
Welcome back to another installment of Ilblurmatic, and today we got another episode review of Stargirl Summerschool episode 3. So this episode starts off with Johnny. Johnny is this other Justice Society member that we see in this episode. This is like 10 years before, whatever took place in the previous season. And literally, we see Johnny being benched by the Justice Society. And he's like, man, I can't believe they did this to me, And he's pretty much confessing to Pat. He's like, yo, I'm a top tier DC hero too. What about me? What about me? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, like this dude is pretty much, Johnny's braggadocious. He's kind of a bit arrogant. And we see eventually that Pat said, hey, maybe next time. And pretty much Pat is also known as Stripesy, if you guys don't know. And we see that Wildcat comes and say, yo, look. He says, he's like, pretty much, Johnny, hey, we just got Solomon Grundy. I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, they captured Solomon Grundy? Because, like, let's be honest, Solomon Grundy he's pretty strong. He's, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, wow, that's crazy. And we see Wildcat pretty much come get Johnny, and Johnny ends up leaving with Wildcat. So we see the original Wildcat in this episode, which I thought was really cool. I was like, I like this episode. I like that we see the original. Not saying that I don't like Yolanda's Wildcat, okay? But I was like, cool, we get a chance to see how he was. And he seemed to be like the more, I guess you could say, stern person, you know what I'm saying? He letting Johnny know, like, yeah, you can come along now. And we see pretty much Pat being left behind, the struggles of being a sidekick, right? When you're not the main hero, you can't go to certain things or do certain things, and Pat being left out of the loop. And that's what we see him in his past as a sidekick and a little bit of the struggles of the sidekick. But let's get right back into this. So literally, now the episode's following Pat's son, Mike. And Mike is this paper boy that just, he's not a good paper boy. Okay, I'm going to be honest. He's just throwing the paper left and right, throwing it in different directions and stuff. He ain't even hitting the porch. I'm like, what type of paper boy are you? You know what I'm saying? So eventually, Mike ends up confronting these guys as kind of like the bullies of the neighborhood. And he eventually goes back home. And I think his boss ends up calling him. And I guess he gets another job in another part of the neighborhood in Blue Valley. And unfortunately, Mike picks up a pen and he doesn't realize what this particular pen is. I'm like, yo, you don't even know what the pen is, bro. You don't even know what the pen is. To find out that the pen is pretty much Thunderbolt, this genie that was owned by Johnny, a member of the Justice Society of America. And I was like, wow, like, this is crazy. So, pretty much, the genie introduces itself to Mike Duggan. And it was very interesting, the introduction and stuff, and just him showing himself to Mike and pretty much explaining that he's a genie, he makes wishes, but you got to be particular about your wishes. And we see in this episode, Mike was like, yeah, I want some water, but instead he got wet. So this is why he said you have to be particular about your wishes. We also see Mike grow taller, but he said, hey, I can't do two wishes twice, meaning like you can't ask for the same height wish over again. So certain wishes had pros and cons. Certain wishes you can do, certain wishes you can't do, and pretty much Mike feels a part of something now that he has the actual genie. But also in this episode, we see that Yolanda and pretty much Courtney finds out that pretty much Courtney's brother wields the actual pen. But before we get into this, so now we eventually see that Pat and the rest of the gang or the team, the new Justice Society, come up literally with a plan to like encounter Shade. Like, what would they do to encounter Shade or how to get to him? But before that, we see Barbara and her weird encounter with Richard Swift, also known as Shade. Pretty much Barbara is going through the Zarek family's collectibles. And who's creeping in the shadows out of nowhere or just creeping from nowhere? Pretty much Richard Swift. We see him asking Barbara, say, yo, your coworker told me that you was in this place and you were looking for the Zarek family collectibles. Apparently, we see Richard Swift, also known as Shade, finally find what he's looking for. But before he leaves, he gives Barbara back her phone. And pretty much he opens up this box with nothing in it. But it doesn't seem like it's nothing in it. It's definitely something in the box. We just don't know what it is yet that's inside the freaking box. And I'm like, uh-oh, this does not look good at all. So apparently whatever's in that box may, in fact, be the reason why he's returned to Blue Valley is because of that box. He's like, yo, this is why I'm really here. Maybe that's what it is, right? So then we see him disappear in the shadows, which is kind of creepy. I was like, okay, I can see why Barbara was freaked out. Stargirl's mama, Courtney, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I can see why she's freaked out. But now the team is pretty much are on a mission. We see Pat and the gang come together to figure out how they're going to take down Shade. But also, we find out some information that's very shocking. So originally, we all know Beth is Dr. Midnight, the new Dr. Midnight at that. But the original Dr. Midnight was killed by Shade. So pretty much we see that that's the problem. Beth kind of has a beef with this pretty much with Shade now because she's like, yo, you killed the original. You know what I'm saying? She felt some type of way. Now she's out for revenge. We see Courtney's like, no, we got to come up with a plan. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's trying to figure out ways to come up with a plan to find Shade. But luckily, your boy, Mike, luckily him having pretty much, you know, the other person's pin, you're like, yo, this is crazy. Johnny's pin, he eventually figures out where Shade's location is, and shockingly, I was like, wow, it was this easy to find Shade? Like, usually supervillains, it takes a while to find out where their hideout's at. But pretty much, Shade, also known as Richard Swift, has taken a liking to the family home of the Zarek family from Courtney's newest friend when she first got to Blue Valley, old home. And when they get there, pretty much, it goes down. Okay, it goes down. Literally, I was saying to myself, like, yikes! So pretty much, we see Shade sitting at a table where he has all these cups out, these antique cups, like, you know, and him sitting at the center of the table, literally, and pretty much Pat, like, pretty much saying, like, hey, why are you in Blue Valley? It's all Stripes, it was you. I was trying to figure out who you were. And I was like, uh-oh, he knew Pat was the sidekick of the previous Starman, you know what I'm saying? And now he is the sidekick of Stargirl. So we see pretty much Pat confront him, and literally, you know what I'm saying, Richard Swift, also known as Shade, he said, hey, look, man, you know, all those guys, they were down for Jordan's world domination thing. I was never friends with these fools, pretty much. He's like, we weren't friends, you know what I'm saying? But also he was saying that him and Jordan had fell out. So I was definitely right that there definitely was a reason why he left the Injustice Society. Him and Jordan had some words and some differences. I think it was due to their different ideologies. It seems like Shade was like, bruh, I'm not trying to do no world domination, bruh. That's not me. That ain't me. So we see that there was definitely pretty much an issue between the two. We also, we found out that Shade is the oldest Injustice member of society. He's been around since the 1800s. I'm like, I was like, whoa, this man is old, okay? So he's the oldest member, and pretty much we see the team try to take down Shade by literally breaking into his house. Well, not really his house, but the original Zere's family's house. And they all get their butts kicked by shadows. I was like, dang. I was like, fail plan, because it was a failed plan. You know what I'm saying? Yolanda, only person that really kind of like held their own against him was Stargirl, because Stargirl's staff kind of shot off the shadows that were trying to attack her, even though she got held up against the wall with the shadow. And Rick, poor Hour Man, poor Beth, man. We see Beth, she wanted revenge. And we see them kind of take an L this time. Heroes can't always win. So we see them take an L. Even Pat's son, even though he was supposed to have stayed at the actual shop that his father owns, he comes and he gets his butt kicked too. You got a piece of butt whooping too, just like the rest of your sister's team. But also we see in this episode Beth, also known as Dr. Midnight, she is struggling because her family is not a family anymore. Mother and father are getting divorced. She can't get Chuck to come back into the goggles, the original Dr. Midnights. But we see pretty much her and Rick kind of become close as friends, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's really cool. I kind of figured that Rick was going to get close to Beth, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I knew he's cool with the rest of the gang, you know what I'm saying, or the crew of the Justice Society of America, the new one. But it seems like Rick and Beth have really become really cool over the time, and Rick pretty much letting Beth, show her feelings and how she really feels. He said, hey, pretend I'm Chuck. And pretty much Chuck comes back on randomly, and he has some very dark warning that's coming. He said, hey, Beth, he's like, danger. And pretty much that Eclipso is here, and it ain't a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. So we do see that. Also in this episode, we see Yolanda struggle with being Wildcat, okay? Like, she asks Mike Duggan, which is Stargirl's little brother, about him killing Icicle Sr. So how do you feel about that? I think from Mike's perspective, it was shocking that he killed Jordan. He didn't expect to kill him. And, with Yolanda being Wildcat, she doesn't want to kill another villain like she did Brainwave. So she has some regret and doubt, and pretty much is traumatized from it still that she did that. She told Courtney, hey, I'm not trying to kill Shay. I'm not trying to do that. We're going to do something different, It still didn't work out either way. We also see in this episode that Barbara confesses to Pat. Literally, she said, yeah, Shay came by. And she's like, he came and got something from the collectibles, and it was a box with nothing in it. And Pat was like, uh-oh. I was like, this is not good. Pat says the box she's like, it had a jewel in it. And he said, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, that box, by the way, it had a black jewel in it. It's not a good thing. Meaning that pretty much Shade, also known as Richard Swift, must have got his powers back with the jewel inside that box. So the box wasn't empty. It's just that maybe it was the illusion or the magic behind it to make it look like it was empty. So I was like, oh boy. Also, we see in this episode towards the very end that pretty much Pat gives up the actual pen. And you know what I'm saying? He pretty much gives up the actual pen. And literally Johnny has a new owner. His pen has a new owner, Thunderbolt, the actual genie, and it's Hakeem. And Hakeem is this kind of loner kid that's kind of similar to how Pat was. So it seems like Thunderbolt, the genie, is attracted to people that are loners. People that are lonely, you know what I'm saying? And we see Hakeem, like this kid that kind of isolates himself. He has an older sister. His mother is nagging. You see her talking in the background. and he comes across the pen in his room, and pretty much the genie pops out their actual pen, and we see it kind of like end with that. But then towards the end of this episode, we see Shade. So I think Shade is not necessarily here to take over Blue Valley. He's here to help, pretty much, shockingly, the new Justice Society of America with Eclipso, which I forgot to mention, that was worn by Beth with the goggles that she had with Chuck. You know what I'm saying? Be on the lookout for Eclipso. So Eclipso is definitely going to be the main baddie for Stargirl this season. And I like that they kind of introduced him, I think, already. I think he's the one that's inside Sydney's little jewel that she has. But this episode was really good. We saw the heroes take an L for the first time this season. We see Beth with her struggles. We understand Yolanda kind of wanting not to kill supervillains, you know what I'm saying? We also see pretty much Pat's son kind of become a hero, even though he failed at it, but also he failed as a paperboy too. He doesn't need to be a paperboy no more. But also we see with Courtney understanding that Shade is no joke. You know what I'm saying? Pat warned her that Shade is definitely a powerful villain. And now that he has what he came for, he's definitely going to be way more dangerous than anticipated. But I really liked this episode. I thought this episode flowed really well. Like I said, we saw the heroes lose, you know, finally. We also see, you know, each hero having a different motive. We see Bev, like, you know, kind of like hurt from pretty much the original Dr. Midnight getting killed by Shade. We see Pat, you know, kind of struggling being a sidekick, and he knows how it feels to be a sidekick or left out with his son. His son was being left out because he didn't have any powers or anything like that, or superhero talent. But I thought this episode was really thought out really well. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait to see why Shay's originally here. I think Shay does want to help the new Justice Society because he said, I gotta help the kids. So this is my video for today on Stargirl episode 3, pretty much called Summer School. This is the new name for the season. And have you seen the latest episode of Stargirl? You tell me. You got it, guys. Your boy, Ill Blurmatic. Take care, guys.